Hello and good evening. You join us in a very quiet and sombre Croydon, a town in mourning, still trying to come to terms with what happened here yesterday, and still many unanswered questions as to how it happened. It's now just over 36 hours since a tram derailed down the road there behind us, killing 7 people and injuring more than 50 others. An update from British Transport Police tonight, who have confirmed that it was 6 men and 1 woman who sadly lost their lives. And we do know that one of the victims has been named as 19-year-old Dane Chinnery, and tributes have poured in for him, especially on social media. Let me just read you one of them. It says, "Hearts have been broken. Dane was the funniest boy. If anyone ever needed anything, he'd be there doing all he can to help." So a young life cut short by what should have been an ordinary commute, which turned into anything but. Well, one of Dane's friends was also on the tram at the time. He's been speaking about his time on the derailment, as have other commuters, to our reporter Victoria Cook.
Dane Chinnery was 19 years old. He was trying to get to work on the tram. When it derailed, he didn't survive. His friend Tom Dale was with him. He's been talking about what happened.
It was a normal morning for me. Just got up at 6 o'clock, ready to go to work. Said goodbye to my dad and my mum. And unfortunately, as I got on the tram to go to work, the tram just suddenly went. The driver was speeding, and before I knew it, the tram was on its side and Dane had gone. Like I said to everyone else, he's a kind lad. It just didn't deserve to happen to him, and I just wish that if I'd known it was going to happen, I just wish that I could have grabbed onto him and tried to keep him alive, sort of thing. He was nowhere to be seen on the tram or nothing. I just couldn't see him anywhere. I asked for him when I come round. I just said, "Has anyone seen Dane?" And everyone was like, "No, we haven't seen him." And that's when it hit me. I thought, "Do you know what? He's gone. He's under the tram." My legs were actually under the tram, but when I managed to get out and someone pulled me out and managed to move my legs about and that, I tried to help as many people. But in the end, the police turned up and managed to get us all out, and my dad took me to the hospital.
Kevin Snow was also on the tram. He was lucky. He walked away. Earlier, he told me how he felt something was going wrong.
The amount of times that I've used the tram, and each stop, you get to know exactly where the tram is going to accelerate, where the tram should or apply its brakes.
When did you start to notice that things weren't quite right with the tram?
I thought to myself, we should be slowing down by now. Then a couple of seconds after that, I felt the surge in the tram as it was going over. The lights went off. Obviously, I felt it hit the ground and we were sliding, and I was just trying to count in seconds and just sort of saying to myself, "Stop, stop, it'd be stopped in a minute." And then it did come to a stop. Then that's when I heard all the shouting and the crying. And
when the tram finally came to a stop, what could you see?
That's when I see all the bodies everywhere and the injuries and everything to everybody else. Obviously, the people that were standing by this time had been thrown around the tram itself. The people that were sitting had been thrown out their seats. I got hit in the chest by a lady that was sat opposite me. It was just like a complete nightmare. I thought I was in a dream and I was going to wake up and everything was okay, but obviously it weren't. It was horrendous. There was people trapped under either the front and the back door on the front carriage that I was on, half sort of under the tram and half actually in the tram itself. All the glass had smashed out the doors. There was people climbing on the seats trying to reach to the doors that was then on the roof of the tram.
What were you thinking when the tram fell over?
I was just glad I was alive. And I think I was one of the lucky ones.
Clearly very distressing for anyone involved. Well, I did mention earlier, didn't I, that more than 50 people were injured, and they were taken to 2 local hospitals here. That's Croydon University, and the more serious ones were taken to St George's in Tooting. And that's where we can join my colleague Louisa Preston. And Lou, you've got the latest for us there.
Well, yes, Riz, as you say, I'm outside St George's Hospital in Tooting, and 3 people who were seriously injured were brought here yesterday. Now, they actually had surgery yesterday and they are still in hospital being cared for behind me here. Now, the hospital hasn't given us any update on their progress, but the hospital has issued a statement today saying they want to thank the public for their kind wishes and support to the staff here at St George's after everything that happened yesterday. Now, as Riz said, over in Croydon, 38 people who were injured were taken to Croydon University Hospital. One of those people was actually admitted into hospital and has been discharged tonight. I've spoken to the hospital and they said that person has been discharged. Now, the medical director of services over in Croydon has actually said that he wants to thank all his staff who were involved in the operation yesterday, and also said how proud he is of the NHS. And we've also heard from the Mayor Sadiq Khan also saying that he wants to pay tribute to all those NHS staff and emergency services who worked so hard to make sure that everybody had the care that they needed. Back to you, Riz.
Yes, we all echo that. Louisa, many thanks for that update. Now, of course, today, big questions over safety, and we know that investigations are underway. But we've heard from commuters who say they expressed particular concerns over speed along the same section of the line, as our transport correspondent Tom Edwards can tell us.
Part of this crash site is now becoming a place of remembrance. And further along the tracks, forensic officers have been continuing to examine the wreckage on a sharp left turn where the tram derailed.
A loud screeching noise, like a car was applying its brakes, but a lot louder than that.
Andy Smith was close to the crash yesterday. He says he warned Transport for London about excessive speeds on the bend, and he knew a derailment would happen.
What happens, you come out of a very fast tunnel. When you've come out of that tunnel, you start turning off sharp left, which is where the tram derailed yesterday. And I've actually had to complain because during the summer, June, July time, I felt that the train was going to derail because the speed was so fast that I honestly didn't think we were going to make the left-hand turn.
And you warned TfL about that?
Yes, I emailed them. I'm not sure of the date, I'm just trying to check through my emails at the moment, but I did make a complaint.
It was that bad you made a complaint?
Yes, I knew this was coming.
The bend has a 12-mile-an-hour speed limit, but the restriction before it is 50. And it's emerged today others had complained about speeds on the corner. One passenger on social media said the tram driver took the hard corner at 40 miles an hour. Another said it was like a ride from Alton Towers. Former drivers say they are under pressure.
I'm speaking to the guys to this present day. They're all saying that the timetables are unachievable. They're under pressure. The system is extremely busy, and during rush hour periods can't cope.
The trams are integral to Croydon and they run east-west across South London. They were introduced 16 years ago because there are no tube stations in this borough. Tram drivers have told me that they do have safety features that stop the tram if the driver is incapacitated, but they don't have speed limiters. Until now, they had a good safety record. And today, a restricted service on the trams were being used by many as normal.
There's been less of an issue with trams than there have been with trains over the decades, so for me it was surprising to hear the news yesterday.
I do love it, seriously. I mean, if I want to go to Sainsbury's, it's only under 5 minutes if I'm on a tram. Unlike the bus, which will take about 50 minutes for me to get there.
They seem to be quite safe to me from where I travel every day.
They are inherently safe vehicles. There must be factors here which have led to this horrific incident. I would be surprised if they were per se to do with the design of the vehicle.
British Transport Police say they are looking at whether the driver fell asleep or blacked out, and into previous instances of excessive speed on the bend. Is this part of your investigation now?
As you'd expect, that's one part: speeding trams, speeding trains, any other piece of information, that all forms part of the investigation. One thing I can satisfy everybody about is that we will do that in a painstaking way. We'll look at any previous reports.
This investigation is likely to last months. The unions have warned there should be no rush to judgment or to place blame. But there are some who say they had warned the authorities this could happen.
And Tom's here now, and we can see, Tom, some activity behind us, the cranes parked up that will eventually move that tram. But are we any closer to answers?
No, nothing definite yet, much too early in this whole process. What we are being told, though, now that the tram is now vertical and it will be lifted, we think, later tonight and taken off-site tomorrow for further examination. We've also got a statement from First Group, who are the operators of the tram system, and they say we have comprehensive safety processes and controls in place. It's absolutely essential we find out exactly what happened. I think, though, getting those answers is going to take many, many months.
OK, Tom, for now, thank you. Well, as the hearts of this town go out to the families of the victim, later on, we'll be reflecting on how Croydon is dealing with the aftermath of this tragedy. First, though, it's back to Asad Ahmed in the studio for some of the day's other news.
OK, well, now let's return to Riz, who's in Croydon for us this evening, a short distance from where the tram derailed yesterday, claiming 7 lives. Riz.
Asad, thanks very much. And let's not forget that the tram is part of the daily routine for people here travelling to work or school, especially in this part of London. So you can imagine the sense of shock, if you like, here, and anxiety. Our reporter Karl Mercer has spent the day talking to people in the area about how they've been feeling and how they've been coping.
In memory of a Palace fan, through the day, friends and family of Dane Chinnery have come to lay flowers near the scene of yesterday's crash. There were flowers too from the boss of London Transport, Mike Brown, on site to be briefed on the recovery operation. Dane Chinnery, like many of those killed and injured yesterday, was from New Addington, at the end of the tram line, going to work early, as were others from his community.
We're all devastated up here, you know. When people go to work, just their normal day, they don't want to go to work, but they go to work and suddenly that happens. It's just dreadful, terrible, absolutely awful.
We only found out last night about the young lad, and he happened to be a friend of my colleague in there. It's the lady that cuts her hair, his son, like her son, so, you know, it's terrible, really.
It's a tragedy, really. See, I used to get that tram quite a lot, you know, and most of the people are from New Addington who get on that tram, you know, because, you know, it's early in the morning, early in the morning, so, yeah.
At Dane Chinnery's old school, there was this tribute from the head teacher.
The staff and students at Meridian High School have been heartbroken this morning to hear that a former student died yesterday. We have extended our deepest sympathies to the family and do so to the wider community who have all been so affected. To our knowledge, at least 3 other former students have also been injured. All of the staff in the school share in their pain at this difficult time.
Ladies and gentlemen, please note we will be holding a 1-minute silence at 1:30 for all those affected by the tram incident yesterday. It would be greatly appreciated if you could join us.
A few miles away in East Croydon this lunchtime, a minute's silence to remember those affected by the crash. As the operation continued at the crash site tonight, the local MP was preparing to visit New Addington.
I mean, I've had the privilege of representing New Addington in Parliament for the last 6 years. It's a very, very tight-knit community. A lot of extended families living up there. People know each other. A lot of people have lived there for most of their lives. So there is, you know, although there's some economic deprivation, there is a real strong sense of community there. And I think the Chinnery family and if there are other families up there that turn out to have lost people, they will get great support from the community around them.
Trams are running a shorter service now from New Addington. The area is gearing up for Remembrance Sunday. It will have more pain to remember this weekend.
And Karl's here now. You've spent the whole day here. How do you assess and sum up the mood?
Yeah, it's interesting going to New Addington. A lot we mentioned in the piece there. It was an area of Croydon that used to be completely detached from the town. It was the tram that linked it to the town. It was the tram that brought those workers who were on the tram at 6 o'clock yesterday morning to the tragedy. And we were up there today. There was a victim centre set up where the families were going, but we also saw families walking from there across to the funeral parlour, on the central parade there, and everyone along there you spoke to had a story about someone they knew that was on the tram. It is that sort of area. Gavin Barwell said it's a very tight-knit community. It is, and it will need to be over the coming days.
Okay, Karl, thanks very much indeed. As Karl said there, you know, affected the whole community. If you want to find out more about that tram derailment, or as the names of other victims are identified, you can get plenty more information. Of course, just go to our website.